Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 11th annual Canada Chicago Mentoring Program, or C2MP. I'm Stephen Collins, the CEO of MATTER. MATTER is a healthcare technology incubator and innovation hub with a mission to accelerate the pace of change of healthcare. Since we launched in 2015, we've supported more than 1,000 startup companies from all over the world, and we have a suite of services to help them at every stage of development. We also run 6 to 8 startup accelerators each year in partnership with large health systems, life sciences companies, payers, foundations, each one focused on 5 to 10 companies innovating in a particular area of healthcare. We work with dozens of health systems, payers, life sciences companies, helping them collaborate with the right entrepreneurs and innovate more effectively. We are the digital health hub now of BARDA's Accelerator Network. BARDA is an arm of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. That they're responsible for innovations to improve the country's resilience in the event of public health threats or emergencies. And we host events focused on healthcare innovation, bringing people together to be inspired and learn and connect with each other. The C2MP program is our longest standing initiative at MATTER. Each year since we opened, we've been honored to work with the Consulate to support great Canadian entrepreneurs building next generation technologies. We help them with US entry and growth strategies, everything from regulatory support to figuring out who's going to pay for their technologies to how to take their solutions to market. And in a few minutes, you will hear from 5 companies who will be presenting not only their solutions, but also what they need help with over the next 6 months of the mentoring program. So after each of the 5-minute presentations, there'll be 10 minutes to ask questions. Please use the Zoom Q&A function at any time to pose your questions, and we'll go through them during the 10-minute Q&A period. If you have additional questions for the companies that we don't get to, we'll be utilizing Zoom breakout rooms after the program to allow you to follow up with the companies. Thank you to all of the mentors who make this program possible. Many of you have participated throughout the entire 11 years of this program, and it is your experience, your expertise, and your time that make it possible. Thank you as well to the team at the Consulate, Syed Ahmed, the Council and Senior Trade Commissioner, Julian Rosen, Corey Olashansky, who support and work closely with us on this program. The instigator of our relationship with the Consulate is Dr. Steve Gould. He's been a MATTER board member since the beginning of MATTER. In fact, even before we opened, helping to put it together. He, during the day, serves as a consulting director for Polsky Science Ventures at the University of Chicago. He is and has been a mentor for countless entrepreneurs. He was previously chief of surgery at Michael Reese Hospital. He founded a fascinating company called Northfield Labs, which developed an artificial blood product. He will be the MC for the program, and he will join now. Thank you so much, Steve.
Well, welcome, everybody. It's really a pleasure. As Steve said, this is the 10th year in the 11th program. This was really kind of the official opening of MATTER way back. And it's just a pleasure to have you all here. I want to start by expressing my tremendous thanks and gratitude to everyone at the Consulate, from Madeline, the Consul General, from Samir, who you'll hear from in a moment. I know Julian's on the call. I'm not sure if Corey is, who else is, but this has been a work of love for everybody at the Consul, and the program gets better and better every year. I have good news. We're not going to talk about tariffs today. There are no tariffs for anybody coming to this program. We did specifically arrange to have some snow for the mood effects. The bad news is we don't have beer like we do in person, so we'll do that in the fall meeting. I also want to give a special thanks to Sam Tomei, who really is the unbelievable force in preparing everybody for today. I'm going to talk about the companies right after Samir makes some opening comments. But Sam and Julian and I, with a few others from Matter, but Sam was the main instigator in helping all these great teams prep. So with that, let me introduce Samir, who is going to speak with us. Samir is the Consul and Senior Trade Commissioner, excuse me. So Samir, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gould. You're very, very kind and generous with your comments, and you certainly have been a great friend to the consulate and to all of the Canadian companies who've come through this wonderful program that we have with Matter. It's a pleasure to join all of you today to welcome 5 great Canadian companies selected to participate in the 11th annual Canada Chicago Mentoring Program, C2MP, in partnership with PointB and Matter. Canada and Chicago have growing ties in the life sciences and health industry sector. And now more than ever, it is important for us to do all we can to strengthen this relationship and highlight the importance of the highly integrated nature of our economies. Thankfully, we'll not be talking about tariffs today. But last week, the consulate had the pleasure to launch our inaugural group of Canada's global executives, some of whom are with us today as mentors for the C2MP. We also announced the soft launch, the creation of a Canada Business Council or chamber to foster a thriving economic relationship between Canada and Chicago. We are extremely grateful for the relationship we have built with Matter, who is a well-known and respected as one of the leading healthcare incubators and accelerators in North America. We look forward to building together on the momentum of a decade of this program. And I'd like to offer my congratulations to Canurta Therapeutics, Deep Breathe, MindfulGarden, Myomar Molecular, and Possibility Neurotechnologies, who were selected from a competitive pool of applicants. This year's cohort is breaking boundaries with stunning innovations in key healthcare areas. I'd also like to recognize the consulate staff, members of the Trade Commissioner Service team, who have worked on this project today and in the past as well, and who work closely with Canadian life science and health industry companies each year. That includes our life sciences and health industry sector lead, Julian Rosen, along with Corey Oleshansky, who leads our FDI and science, technology, and innovation teams, as well as Sunita Anand, our innovation officer. We are committed to supporting Canadian firms in the development and commercialization of their technologies to change healthcare delivery for the better and improve patient outcomes going forward, both in Canada and in the United States. The Government of Canada will continue to work collaboratively with our partners in Canada and abroad to advance key priorities such as the newly created Health Emergency Readiness Canada, or HERC, to pursue strategic alliances globally. At the consulate, we're extremely proud that this program is now recognized as an effective model, providing Canadian life science ventures with the opportunity to build a professional network in Chicago and refine their business strategy to more effectively grow in the US market. As we welcome this year's cohort, we encourage you to connect with Matter's expert resources, leverage the consulate's connections with the local ecosystem, and continue to drive cross-border opportunities across the spectrums of innovation, R&D, and commercial functions. And of course, thank you to the PointB mentors for bringing your knowledge and dedication to the Canadian companies and to our C2MP program over the years. Again, thank you, Steve Gould, and Steve Collins for the opportunity to say a few words. And as always, thank you very much for this great partnership that we have. With that, let's get right into the pitch presentations from our 5 Canadian ventures, the main event that we're here for. And back to you, Dr. Gould.
Thanks, Amir. Thanks for your kind words, and thanks again for all that you do to make this program so successful. So I'm going to begin. I'm just going to give sort of the rules today. The format is the following. As I've said, we got 5 great companies you'll meet in a minute. This program is a bit unique in that we structure a 15-minute session for each company. And in some ways, we're a little rigid. We tell them they have 5 slides, 5 content slides, and 5 minutes to give their opening pitch. And we ask them to follow a very specific format. I'm going to tell you, so you'll appreciate while they're telling the story. They start with the problem. They tell us their solution to the problem. They tell us what's unique about their solution. The 4th slide is some overview of their history and current status. And the last slide is sort of next steps and what their needs are from the 6-month program. And the purpose of all of that is to set up the 10-minute Q&A session, which is really the essence of the interaction here. It's more lively in person, but we'll do our best. And I tell the speakers that, I tell the mentors over here, don't give a lecture, ask a question, keep it concise. And I tell the companies, don't give a lecture, give a very concise answer. So in 10 minutes, we would love to have 10 questions and answers. And the goal of doing it that way is to really have a spirited interaction between the audience, the potential mentors, and the mentees who are the founders and teams from the company. And then the last step is we say, if you're interested as a mentor, sign up for this company. There'll be more on how we do that. And the goal is to get each company the very best team of 5 mentors, typically 5. And if we want to pick 5, we love to have 10 or more that volunteer so we can get the best match. All the mentors are fantastic. It's trying to pair the best skill set with the greatest need. So the way it'll work today, each of you on your screen, there's something called Q&A. You can write a question in. I hope you'll be willing to put your name and your affiliation. And then I will read the questions. I'll be the broker, if you will. If you're bashful, you can do it anonymously. That's okay. On occasion, someone may put a question in the chat, and someone from the Matter staff will make sure I get that information. So we'll try and go through these questions. In person, we often have some back and forth between the person asking the question and the company. We can do that here, but you'll have to do it if you want to follow up again through the chat function, and I'll try and pay attention to that. I'm sure I'll mess it up a few times, but hopefully by the 5th company, I'll get it straight. And then at the very end, after all of that, I'll tell you one more time, we will ask you, if you like all 5 companies, put your name when you go to sign up for all 5 companies, then rank them. Tell us what your priority is, 1 to 5. Each mentor will be assigned to no more than 1 team. So I hope this doesn't sound too complicated. It actually works pretty well every year. What we've added because of the Zoom nature of this is breakout rooms, since when we do this in person with beer, which we can't do this way, you can each open a beer at home. You can go to the breakout room and try and get a little more personal time with the companies. So that is the end of the formalities. So we're going to go through them. The first pitch is from Myomar Molecular. So here we go.
Okay, my name is Dr. Rafael Andrade. I'm CEO and co-founder of Myomar. At Myomar, we believe that healthy life starts with healthy muscles. But why to worry about my muscle? So muscle, it is our organ that will give us longevity and quality of life. If you don't pay attention to your muscle when you're younger, we ended up with a disease that's called sarcopenia, which it is overall muscle loss, but also loss of strength and overall quality of life. Most people start losing muscle when they are age 30. And if they continue, that will impact the overall bone health, the muscle strength, and the overall mobility. At Myomar, we have developed a new way of assessing muscle health using urine biomarkers. Very simple test that can be taken at home, and there's a software attached to it, and you give specific information of biomarkers that are unbalanced and is linked to muscle degradation. We have been growing steadily for the past 3 years. We are currently in market in Canada. We have over 20 clinics selling our tests, and we also have patents and regulatory approvals. The opportunity and value of Myomar has become really large as there isn't right now accessible tools that detect overall muscle degeneration. The tools that we have today are time-consuming, are costly, and with a lot of vague metrics. But with this new set of biomarkers that we discover, and with proven accuracy of over 90% compared to the golden standard, we are here to change completely how people assess and monitor their overall muscle health. We are interested in some markets, but one of the most promising markets that we see right now, it is a companion tool for GLP-1s. In the US alone, there are over 50 million adults taking GLP-1 drugs. And one of the main side effects of GLP-1s are muscle loss. The side effect can be very detrimental for aging and also quality of life. Here's my friend, for example, Sarah, who started taking GLP-1, and just before that, she took our test, and it was showing that her overall muscle health was very good for her age, which was she's less than 40 years old. After 4 weeks into the therapy, she lost her overall muscle health to a low level, comparable to a person that is 60 years old. And then we provided her some recommendations and things for her to improve. And after 3 months, she's still struggling to recover that muscle that she lost. So with this, I just want to say that it's really important to overall understand your muscle degradation as you take GLP-1s and take care so then you don't lose your overall muscle health as you progress into the therapy. Again, our test is very simple. It's a urine test that detects specific biomarkers in urine, and those biomarkers can be used for a structured triage of patients, understand how the patients are doing, also tailor monitoring plans to monitor muscle degradation. We also give nutritional and specific exercise recommendations for overall improvement of muscle health. Our go-to-market strategy started with the early adoption, which we already have in place. Then right now we are focusing on scaling our operations. We have a lab test that's already developed and in market. Our home test is in phase 2 of development, and we plan to finalize the second stage by 2026. And with the lab test and the at-home test, then we want to broadly distribute our tests across North America. By 2027, we plan to license our technology to other companies selling biomarker tests. And by 2028, we want to plan our exit. The market that we are targeting right now is very large. We are in the aging, wellness, longevity with a $750 million market size. The GLP-1 market is becoming bigger and bigger over time with a $12 billion opportunity. And also there is a physical performance and athletics side on our technology that it is a $1 billion market size. We already have fundraised $600,000 in convertible notes. And with that, we were able to raise $1.4 million in grants. And today, we are asking help with tactical sales and marketing as we scale our technology across North America. We also want mentors that have experience with licensing and business development. And as we continue to develop our technology, we want to understand the reimbursement strategy, both in the US and Canada, for a strong stimulation of our technology into the healthcare system. And with that, I want to finish, and I'm really happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That was outstanding. 5 minutes on the dot. So I'm telling you, because one of the stories I tell, when we start with the teams every year, I'm not sure anybody believes us that we're going to enforce the 5 minutes. And then we start rehearsing. It's a lot of fun for us. Sam and Julian Schnaub from Matter joined us this year. And we tell them, we're not bad people. We know this is much harder than giving a 1-hour talk. And if you work with us, we can do it. So we think all the appropriate points are covered there. I'm not taking the 10-minute Q&A. I'm just setting it up because I know every one of these is going to be right on that 5 minute with the right content. So I hope you all enjoyed that. And we're just so appreciative of the enthusiastic response of the teams when we tell them, cut, do this, do that. So I hope they're pleased because it does work. All right, well, let me open the floor. Good, I got a bunch of questions already. So the first question is from Mary Beth Arzak. Thanks, Mary Beth. Will your test results be able to help inform the type of muscle loss and recommended remediation steps?
So we don't inform the type of muscle loss. It is an overall score. So we don't know exactly which muscle it is being affected, but because it is an overall score, we can see where it's coming from. If you have an injury, for example, is usually due to that injury, and then you can target the recommendation towards the injury improvement.
Okay, thank you. I've got questions. I'm going to go through both of these. I have a question on cost, which we'll get to, and a question on market size. Let me start with the market size, then we'll get to cost. So I'm lumping Catherine Sastanoff, one of our lead mentors. Thanks, Catherine. Say more about how you calculate the market size, US or US and Canada, what segments and why. I'll fold in, Catherine is interested in the market size, who are the licensee candidates, and that sort of feeds into the opportunities. How do you expand beyond GLP? So start with those, and then we'll go to cost next. So market,
yes.
Licensee, and developing the market.
So the market calculations, it is based on what we are selling the test right now. So right now, the tests are selling at $200 a test. And then we see the size of the market in different segments. One of them is the GLP-1, but we also have clinics that are working with longevity. So patients that are interested in longevity, improvement of overall quality of life. There is a lot of those clinics across the US and Canada. They usually work with more executives and CEOs to improve their overall health, but it's become more and more popular where people have access to those clinics. And that's the first question. And then the second question about the licensing candidates, there is a lot of companies right now selling biomarker tests, and there isn't any one of them with a muscle-specific test. So we can pretty much step into those markets and license our technology, our software, and also our test to those that already have distribution channels in place, the segmentation, and they'll be able to distribute our test quite fast within their own customer base. And the final test, the final question about the GLP-1 user market.
Well, do you see expanding beyond GLP?
Yes, we see expanding beyond GLP, especially because muscle, it is involved in many aspects of your overall quality of life. So we do see the GLP as one of the major markets, but we also have our eyes on longevity, and we also see that our athletes are performing better once they have completed our tests. So the athletes market is also a large one.
Yeah. So let me do a little summarizing here. So that our mentors are fabulous, and as you see, they're honing in on many of the things we talked about in the prep session, right? This is exactly what we talked about. So the first question about diagnosis, how are you going to introduce any remedies? Some questions about market size. I want to go to Christine Rohan, another one of our recurring mentors. Thanks, Christine. What's the cost of the test? You mentioned that, but expand on it. Who pays for it?
Yeah, so right now the cost is $200. We sell direct to consumers, but we also sell B2B. For the B2B side, they buy in bulk, so they get a preferential price and they resell to their clients. The payer, it is the end user, which will be the client accessing those clinics or trying to understand the overall muscle health, or even the clients that's taking GLP. They would take our test on a monthly basis to see how degradation of muscle is impacting their overall health. And they can also take our recommendations to decrease the decay of muscle as they go through the therapy. So we don't want people to stop taking the therapy, but we wanted them to take a look at their muscle while they are in the process of taking GLPs.
Great. Again, perfect segue to the question from Harold Stelzer. Hi, Harold, another of our regular mentors. Please explain more about any outcome studies you have conducted. See, I set
So
you
we
up
have,
because we went through all this. I told you the mentor was going to ask you all this.
yeah, we have done clinical endorsement of the technology in 2 clinical studies in Canada. So the studies were to compare our technology with the DEXA scan. A DEXA scan, it is a machine that takes a picture of your body and informs your levels of sarcopenia, or if you have sarcopenia or not. So we compare our 5 biomarkers to the diagnosis using DEXA, and you have 90% accuracy compared to the DEXA diagnosis.
Okay. But let me liven it up, which I like to do. That's not an outcome. That's an accuracy.
Yeah, that's an accuracy. The outcome of the study was a prediction tool that we generated after this. So we were able to validate the biomarkers as a prediction tool of sarcopenia.
Harold, type in a response if you want more, because I'm not sure that's getting at what I think your question is. I think what the audience is looking at. I'm curious if we can get I don't know how. I guess I can't get a show of hands. I was going to ask how many people knew the term sarcopenia or were familiar with DEXA scans, because I knew the word sarcopenia as a medical term. I never thought of it as a diagnosis, and I wasn't familiar with DEXA scan. So I think we're coming back to biomarkers are great. A lot of interest in biomarkers in lots of diseases. We want to know, number one, is it accurate? You have some information on that compared to the gold standard, but I don't know how good that gold standard is. And what the meaning is. What are you going to do about it? And can you use it to monitor any recurrences? So all of that feeds into the cost and stuff. So I'll give you one last chance to see if you have any outcome data, and then I want to move on because I got another good question here.
Yes, so we are in the process of gathering more data about the intervention piece, which is another question that we always get. So we want to see if our interventions is impacting. We already know with our preliminary data that's impacting a lot. Usually people that follows our recommendations improve quite a bit their overall muscle health. And we are now getting ready to start a GLP-1 specific study that will give us even more information of how the intervention can improve patients that are on GLP-1.
Yeah, okay.
We also, just one more thing, we also have studies with athletes, and we show very good correlation with overall performance of the athletes with our muscle score, meaning that they win more if they have a higher muscle score, and the coaches work with them to improve their muscle score to the level that we see a higher performance and higher gold medals.
Okay.
Just quickly, Steve, if I can add just one more thing. On top of the clinical data and clinical evidence that we have in cross-sectional studies, We are collecting longitudinal data. We did not conduct a longitudinal study, but we are collecting it from a large beta testing cohort that we did within Canada. So we have about 2 to 3 months of longitudinal feedback that we've gotten from those individuals, which is really great, and it's helping us understand some of these outcomes, but not published data yet.
Okay. So one of the things that the team talked about with us, based on some questions we asked, was $200 self-pay. It's that's a lot of money. So somebody who's very concerned, they join a health club, they work with a trainer, they may do that. That's kind of a segue to the question from Rick Newman. Hi, Rick, another one of our valued recurrent members. Rick's a very savvy regulatory guy. Have you assessed in any depth your regulatory standing status with FDA? How will you navigate the wellness pitch versus diagnosing muscle loss as a disease or condition? Okay.
Yeah, it's just to reply to our answer about the cost. I do think that our test is one of the most cheapest tests available for biomarker tracing. None of the tests that are available for biomarker tracing is at $200 right now. They are much more expensive than that. So, and besides that, we also are launching our home test. Will be a quarter of the price and can be taken on a more frequent basis than our lab tests. In terms of the FDA approval, I can give that to Ryan to answer. We do have regulatory in place, and Ryan can dig in a little more.
Yeah, we currently have a medical device establishment license as a Class 1 device in Canada for the lab developed test. Our path to market and our go-to-market strategy, which you were able to see earlier with the longevity, wellness, and aging space, we have consulted with a regulatory agency in the US, and our strategy is to launch the product in the wellness space, which does not require us to submit an 501k due to our claims. So we're using this product, and our first soft launch of the product in the US will not predict or diagnose sarcopenia. It will be a wellness tool in the longevity space to help individuals improve their health and quality of life based on recommendations that we see. But the data that we collect is based on our clinical evidence.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks to the company. Thanks to the mentors. Lively. I hope you're all feeling the sense of excitement, enthusiasm from both sides. There are other questions that I cannot get to here, so I hope the rest of you will go to the breakout room, or you can send things into Sam. Are these? Do we keep a record of all these Q&As?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so if we want, we can share some of them later on. We can talk about that, but we have the record. Okay, great. Yep. All right. Well, good. Great start. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for just not sitting there. So let's move on to our next presentation, which is Deep Breathe. And I'm sure there'll be 5 minutes also.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Chris Grube. I'm the Director of Business Development at Deep Breathe. Excited to spend less than 5 or less minutes here giving you an overview of our vision, which is unlocking portable lung diagnostics for all patients in all places. So we'll talk of, later in the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about a variety of lung conditions, but the one I want to focus on first, and where our company is first focused, is a condition called pneumothorax. So pneumothorax, or commonly known as a collapsed or punctured lung, is common, unpredictable, and dangerous. It presents in many cases. So as you can imagine, it presents in the emergency room with patients coming in under respiratory distress, but more commonly, it's seen throughout the hospital, like the ICU or post-surgery, where removing a chest tube after surgery can cause a pneumothorax, or putting in a central venous line can cause, like, between 1% and 6% of the time, it can cause a pneumothorax. And so routinely, chest x-rays are the gold standard in this case to confirm if there's a presence on a suspicion of a pneumothorax. But interestingly enough, chest x-rays are also routinely done just to confirm that the pneumothorax has not been caused. So going back to the example that we were talking about before of with surgery, if they're putting in a chest tube, a minimum of 2 chest x-rays are done for every patient that has a chest tube removed. So the reality of this is that the workflow and resources that are tied to a chest x-ray are extremely inefficient. They're resource intensive, come with high capital cost. The diagnostic sensitivity when it comes to diagnosing a pneumothorax is quite low. We're exposing patients to radiation, and as they're big capital units, there's limited portability with it. So enter PneumoGo by Deep Breathe. And what we are is we're a hardware agnostic software company. And so we've built the world's largest data set library out of London, Ontario, and we've applied machine learning to this set so that with the use of a handheld ultrasound like the butterfly system that you see in the screen here, we can apply AI and identify artifacts via a lung ultrasound, and in the palm of a clinician's hand, provide virtual lung specialty. So we published 12 peer-reviewed articles, and one of those, which was a prospective small trial looking at the accuracy of the algorithm, Deep Breathe's AI ruled out a pneumothorax with 35% higher sensitivity than a trained clinician using lung ultrasound to identify or rule out pneumothorax as well. And if you compare this 92% compared to what we talked about in the first slide, where chest x-ray is usually in that sort of high 40s, low 50% rate, PneumoGo can replace 95% of chest x-rays that are done for pneumothorax. And this is a significant advantage because, as we were mentioning before, where clinicians are using a chest x-ray just to confirm a state of healthy lung, they can now do in seconds at the bedside, which normally would take many resources and an hour, 2.5 of a clinical workflow. The other positive piece for our go-to-market strategy includes that there's already a reimbursement path in the US. So there is an existing CPT code with some favorable reimbursing pricing for lung ultrasound versus chest x-ray. So it's another piece that we're looking at as we go forward as a company. So where we are and where we're going is we're currently, as of this month, be filing our 510(k) with the FDA and soon after approval with Health Canada. We're also in the process of working with the OEMs that have the hardware that currently exists on the marketplace for some licensing agreements. At the same time, analyzing the path forward as a direct to health system sale in a fee for use model. Moving forward, as we look towards like the end of 2026, we'll be looking at expanding our AA models. So we will be coming to market with pneumothorax first, followed by models for pneumonia, pleural effusion, and fibrosis. And our ultimate package of what we're currently working on with partners like the US DoD is a potential proprietary hardware rollout. So looking at a handheld piece or a wearable. And what's really exciting about this is that it'll put the machine learning within a device that will really move this rapid triage tool upstream. So think ambulance, emergency care clinic, US military applications, and so on. So as we come into the program, our 3 organizational needs is one, as mentioned before, is the commercialization and sales strategy support. So looking at licensing agreements versus direct sell with the hospital systems, seeking out different strategic industry and pilot partnerships like with health systems, with hardware manufacturers, expanded use within different sales channels as well, or applications with US DoD, SpaceX, veterinary care, occupational health. And the last thing is just working on continually the financing for the organization. So we're currently completing a $2.5 million, and that's Canadian seed round, with our plan to go to a Series A at the end of 2026.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. Before I open it, let me ask a point of clarification. The slide where you showed the accuracy. So again, nice job of working through our prep sessions to, I think, highlight the key points for this. The accuracy, the 35% reduction was your technology. Is the comparison to chest x-ray or a handheld ultrasound without your AI?
Correct. It's the latter. So it was within a site for clinicians trained to use lung ultrasound on a portable handheld unit versus the same portable with the AI.
Okay. So so great, because one of the things, I don't know where everybody is. I hope there's not a technical, I don't, oh, there we go. Okay. I got my first question. One of the questions I had was physicians use handheld ultrasound in a variety of settings right now. So there's evidence of the added accuracy. Let me ask my second question. I'm not sure we went through the dollars. So you're saying the reimbursement code for chest X-ray is $7, and for the ultrasound is 23. So it's going to cost the health system more, right? It's 3 times for every evaluation.
Correct. So it's increased diagnostic reimbursement revenue for that, but the added benefit for the hospital is, again, a lot of in the sense of in the matter of for pneumothorax, as 95% of the chest X-rays that are being done for pneumothorax are coming back as negative. When you tie in the time, the resources, and everything for that workflow, it's a massive reduction on that process.
Okay, great. All right, here we go. So let me start. Bill Manganaro, who asked, I didn't get to your question last time, Bill, so I'm going to start with you. Are you seeing another one of our repeat mentors? Are you seeing much response to portability or radiation aspects of value proposition? Have not heard these concerns from radiologists. Workflow reduction and field use potential seem like strongest value proposition elements.
Yeah, agreed. With the biggest value add prop is the portability and the reduction in time for diagnosis.
Okay. Harold Stelzer again. Oh, good question. We discussed what incentives are there for manufacturers?
The biggest incentive for the manufacturers and why they're working with us, for example, 80% of the manufacturers have NDAs signed with us and over half have data sharing agreements, is that because lung ultrasound is it's in its infancy of clinical practice, very few hospitals are using this now. So by working with us, it enables them to sell capital units into a department of the hospital that they're not currently selling units.
So talk more about what we were discussing, how this would work, your algorithms. So there's nothing unique about the ultrasound for you. It's the algorithm software. So how would you what's the business relationship with you and the manufacturers?
And that's the major ask I think that we're coming into this program with is
Great. I'm trying to tee it up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, is figuring out that commercial model, because there is definitely a path to go with a licensing or go direct to user.
Right. Yeah. So mentors, we got dug into that, and in many of these presentations, questions came up for which there were no good answers, and I said, great, tee that up. That's what you want to get from the mentors. So we'll hope you get that. Catherine Sasnoff again. How will your initial hardware agnostic approach work with your future plan to develop the handheld device? So that's sort of an extension. Are you going to develop the handheld device on your own or not?
We're a software company, so we would need to. Okay. We're working with different partners now to build out the handheld. We do recognize that it's incredibly difficult for software companies to do hardware and vice versa. The biggest sort of interest for us is that as an organization, we won a prize with the U.S. military as top international innovation, and so groups like BARDA and the U.S. military are very interested in some pilot projects with us because the limitation with any handheld ultrasound, whether it's using AI or not, is you need a trained clinician to operate the handpiece. And so the thought here with the prototype of what we're building is that with AI guidance plus the AI algorithms to diagnose, can get something that's more upstream. And that's where we think about like ambulance, urgent care, all sorts of different applications.
Yeah. So Zoe Kwan, another one of our repeat lead mentors. Thanks, Zoe. Sort of following along that, she actually, this came in after you were answered. Why do you want to develop your own hardware? Wouldn't resources be better spent in other use cases? So I don't know if you want to add anything. We're sort of been touching on that.
Yeah, I guess the only thing to add is the majority of our company is focused on the software piece of it, because to the question of other applications, we've got an agreement in place with the Ontario Veterinary College to as it stands now, to be an agnostic AI for veterinary applications, also occupational health, which again can piggyback off the in partnership with a handheld device. The building of the software, we've got a very small team focused on that. So it's part of what we're doing, but not the main focus.
Okay. Henry Alder, thanks, Henry. Again, a repeat mentor. I think he's answered this, Henry. Have you thought about licensing the software? I think that's what you've been discussing, right? With the manufacturers.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Let me go back. There's nothing else right now. I'm not sure I picked up on the figure about chest X-rays. You said 47% of the time they're accurate, or 47% of the time they miss. Either way.
40, quoting the one paper showed that 47% of the time, specifically for pneumothorax, they're accurate in identifying a pneumothorax.
How do you know that? Well, how do you know they're inaccurate? What's the evidence? How do you
that's quoted from the one paper that was in the presentation there.
Yeah, but what's the gold standard? What's that compared to? So if you say, let's say it's 50-50, half of them are wrong, what's the evidence for saying that they're wrong?
I'd have to sort of dig up the reference on that, but that's like the chest X-ray is the gold standard, and kind of showing that the gold standard there itself is still 50-50 in its accuracy.
Okay. Again, no other questions at the moment. So I understand that one of the things that you want to do is tease out the business model, the pricing and all of that. Just share some of your thoughts. Like where are you thinking about pricing, what it would take to get this reimbursed, things like that, which may be wrong, but what are you currently thinking?
Yeah, I think very similar to what we're thinking now is like debating, there's pros and cons to each scenario of pursuing like a licensing agreement with an OEM, but also at the same time of going direct. So obviously, like a lot of startups, we're a very small team. So although there could be larger revenue streams going direct, like we would have to build out our own, sales clinical team to support that business. Also, balancing, what's the knowing the reimbursement rate for this diagnostic test, what's the appetite for the percentage of that's given back on a click per use type of model. And then on the flip side is like, you have the opposite to be true of licensing through the OEMs, which is, partnering with like a GE, Philips, Butterfly. You have an army of their sales and marketing team to go sell this for you, but potentially at a smaller sort of revenue cap.
Okay, great. All right. Well, we're out of time. Thanks, Chris. Good job.
All right. Thank you.
And again, thanks, mentors. So make a note if you're interested in signing up for this. I really do hope you'll all sign up for multiple ones. We're ready for our third presentation. I know you'll enjoy this one. MindfulGarden. I think, Catherine, you leading off?
Yes, I'm Catherine Winkler, and I'm here with Mark Ross, co-founders of MindfulGarden. We're the first clinically validated biofeedback platform for managing the neurological condition delirium, while reducing reliance on antipsychotic drugs as the tool of first reach in bedside care. So it's really my mother's story that brings us here today. Admitted to hospital for elective hip surgery, Esther experienced post-surgical complications. She lost track of time and place. She saw things that weren't there and was agitated and combative. Classic symptoms of the acute change in the brain known as delirium, which, unlike progressive dementia, is a reversible condition if addressed immediately. But Esther's was not. Over-medicated and misdiagnosed, she died 15 days later. Sadly, Esther's story is not uncommon in a system where for over 50 years, standard of care has remained antipsychotics to sedate and immobilize. In fact, delirium is one of the last unaddressed global issues in healthcare. At $92 billion in North America alone, it is approaching diabetes in terms of direct annual costs to hospitalized care. And it doesn't just affect seniors. From emergency through acute care, general medicine to geri psych, delirium affects over 25% of patients throughout the entire hospital, adding significantly to length of stay and cost of care. Delirium is also associated with a 9 times the risk of future cognitive decline, including a correlation with earlier onset of dementia, something that impacts policymaking globally aimed at promoting aging at home.
As a product team with 25 years experience building immersive digital platforms, we understood how sensor-based technologies can influence human behaviors. Our first product, the MindfulGarden Digital Crash Cart, is our initial step towards fully exploring how we can harness biometrics to affect patient biostate. A hardware and software device, MindfulGarden steps in as a proxy when nurses are not available to sit bedside to de-escalate behaviors. By measuring patient vocalization, movement, and vital sign inputs, the platform responds with nature-based visualizations and soundscapes that match the patient's level of agitation to distract, engage, and de-escalate in a real-time virtuous loop. A typical example is Dora. Admitted from long-term care with a urinary tract infection, Dora was highly agitated, unapproachable for the IV drip. However, once introduced to MindfulGarden, she transitioned in minutes from agitated to calm, resulting in discharge 24 hours later, 5 days earlier than forecast upon admission. I'm happy to answer questions further about how MindfulGarden works, combining game engine dynamics and effective feedback, but the best description is, as one nurse called it, the video game played by the body that the body is unaware it's playing. MindfulGarden is not a diagnostic or predictive tool. It's a behavior management platform deployed quickly without requiring a doctor's order. The first clinical study was published in Nature in 2023 and garnered inbound interest from health systems globally. Study highlights include a 25.7% reduction in as-needed antipsychotics and a significant de-escalation of agitation in as little as 15 to 30 minutes. An independent economic analysis of these results estimated a cost savings of $1.5 million per year for the average community hospital deploying MindfulGarden. Our go-to-market strategy is to secure hospital support in Canada and the US under our evaluation to sales program. We have 3 contracts signed, 3 more pending, and we hope today that connections can be made to bring a Midwest hospital into the program, targeting cardiac, orthopedic, geri psych, ICU, and other wards where delirium is prevalent. Future products will further develop our algorithms by integrating additional biometric input, with the data taking us from a reactive solution to a predictive one while developing one of the largest proprietary data sets on delirium. Along with introductions to potential hospital evaluation sites, we're very interested in mentorship around pricing and reimbursement models and market entry strategies in the region. Thank you for the opportunity, and we welcome your questions.
Great. Thanks. Good job. Right on time. Everybody's doing great today. So the questions have started. Let me go through. So Zoe Kwan asked, when is this introduced to the patient, after delirium detected or before to prevent? And then her follow-up was, or perhaps more simply, how does this actually work?
Perfect. So let me speak to how it's introduced first to the patient. So what we've seen in the sites that are using it is that it's introduced quite often at the first signs or suspicion of delirium. A diagnosis is not required, nor is a doctor's order. And the intent here of this product really is as a tool of first reach, to get someone when they're at the beginning stages of an escalating behavior. And then as for how it works, like the method of action, I think the best way I keep on quoting this nurse. She really described it well as a video game played by the body, because what we do is we take off-the-shelf hardware and sensors that capture on an ongoing basis the patient's vocalization, motion, and later vital sign input, which we take as proxies for agitation. We run that through our content generation algorithm and feed that back as layered interactive visuals and soundscapes that distract, engage, and de-escalate the behavior. So some people call it effective biofeedback. In some ways similar to other feedback techniques used bedside, like somatic tapping. That was really what informed our design approach.
Okay. Catherine Sastanoff wants to know, does your program require its own crash cart, or it can be loaded onto equipment already in the clinic or the hospital?
So great question. If the hardware already on site meets our system specs, then absolutely we could deploy. In fact, we specifically spec'd the standard sort of workstation on wheels that integrates to hospital EHR systems. We simply need something that has a camera and a microphone and that can run our software.
Okay. Dennis Burke, thanks, Dennis. So far, we have nobody new, so I appreciate everybody being here. Who is the decision maker on purchasing the device versus deploying the device?
So great question. I would say that varies both sides of the border. Discussions we've had to date with the US with sites that are interested is preliminary data being reviewed by VAC committee. Everyone from, I'd say the key people are the chief revenue officer and the chief nursing officer, because they're the ones, this really is a nursing tool and it's informed by nurses for nurses. So they're the ones who are telling us it works and we want it. And then the economic argument needs to be made, at the VAC committee level.
Oh, Christine Rohan asks a good question. How will a hospital measure success? Will every patient be assigned a crash cart prophylactically?
So great question. That is very much in discussion with the hospitals that we're currently working with in evaluation. So where we're seeing it is again used preventatively, and from the clinical study we saw that it was effective. The responders were 1 in 4. So I think as a baseline, we're looking for that 1 in 4 effect, and where it has an effect of reducing the antipsychotics and restoring a patient to a calm state, a RASS of 0, if you will, in as little as 30 minutes.
Okay, there's a perceptive question from Catherine Satanoff again. Does the decision to use the program happen once other possible issues are ruled out or dealt with, e.g. drug-induced system, sepsis, something else, the etiology of the delirium?
So that is a great question. And to be perfectly candid, that is something that is being discussed with our evaluation site. So I don't have a definitive answer to that other than it's in development.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly don't want to miss out some organic cause or serious thing. Yeah.
Well, and maybe I should have addressed this, but an add-on point. Again, not a diagnostic and not a treatment. It is a behavior management tool. So the causes for delirium are multifactorial. Our product or solution can be used regardless of what the causes are. But obviously, in terms of diagnosing it, yes, that has to occur.
Well, let me quibble a little bit.
Okay.
If you opt to use this as your first response,
yeah,
to her question, that may delay your evaluation of something else, and that is making a diagnosis.
Fair point. It's certainly what we've done with our regulatory filings is that it's not as a diagnosis. It is as an adjunct to standard of care.
No, I understand the wording, and that may be accurate. I think as you start to build your clinical experience, that's as I said, a very perceptive question to talk through with caregivers and try and get your arms around that in some way.
Yep.
Okay. Henry Alder, does the MindfulGarden technology have application in hospice and nursing homes, because you talked about hospital settings.
Right. So certainly our focus has been delirium in hospital care, because if diagnosed and treated, it's reversible. I think it may have some application in long-term care, but I think the bigger issue there is dementia, which is obviously progressive.
I know we talked about long-term care because it struck me that a lot of them would experience delirium. So let's talk about dementia. Does it not have the same calming effect in dementia?
So we've done 3 small pilots. So I caution the results we can draw from that. But yes, it was shown to reduce behavior and psychological symptoms of dementia by about 30%, and about an equal reduction in the amount of time to complete routine care events. So there is.
I would think dementia would be a very significant opportunity as the incidence of dementia continues to rise, and there are more and more, care being given at home. I don't even know if there's the home application to try and deal with some of this. I think that's an important question.
Happy to discuss it further. To date,
Okay.
we haven't been able to make the business case for dementia.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Zoe Kwan asked, is there a difference in, her question was a difference in elderly versus younger. Let me add on, do you have any experience in younger patients or just elderly at this point?
So great question. So the data we have right now is for adults only. And in our foundational study, the average age was certainly, I think, 55 or above. So it is for older adults, specifically both the type of content, the color palette, the pace of motion. However, we have had early inquiry from the likes of Texas Children's Hospital for pediatric delirium. So it's on the roadmap, but just to be perfectly transparent, we're not there yet.
Great, thanks. Sam, I'm not sure I understand. There's a note, Matter's going to answer this question live. I'm not quite, are you going to answer it, Sam?
No, we were just marking that it was being answered.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to figure out the technology. All right, we got about a minute left. We haven't gotten into pricing at all. How are you thinking about, the business model and wherever you are in that aspect?
Right. So pricing right now, we're in evaluation sales, and there's the pricing we're doing is on a per unit introductory price of 30,000. So that's the hardware and the software for 1 full year. I think one of the areas, frankly, that we're most looking for feedback and mentorship is pricing and reimbursement.
Okay, great. Well, excellent job to the team and to the mentors once again. I hope everybody's enjoying this. I think despite the virtual nature, we're getting lots of interaction.
No,
So,
great questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine and Mark. Good job. Company number 4 is Canurta Therapeutics. Akeem?
Hello, everyone. I'm Akeem Gardner, CEO and founder of Canurta Therapeutics. We are a biotechnology company founded 3 years ago, which are developing rare small molecules derived from nature that target inflammation and address unmet needs in neurodegenerative diseases. We're a team of 11, and we have expertise in botanical science, clinical expertise, and a patented portfolio of therapeutics that have led us to develop a first-in-class pipeline with a lead candidate, CNR 401, which we are investigating to treat amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Some of our achievements and growth to date: since our inception, we've been able to raise a total of $10 million to run our company. That's a mix of equity, convertible debt, and non-dilutive government funding from the Canadian federal and provincial governments. We've used that to develop our pipeline, expand our patent portfolio globally, and make sure that we have a secure first mover advantage. And we're continuing to develop strategic partnerships and commercial opportunities where we can target unmet needs and for patients in emerging markets. The huge problem that we're working to solve is the complex nature of neurodegenerative diseases, an area of disease that is rising rapidly year after year. We know that chronic inflammation is one of the root causes of diseases like ALS and Alzheimer's disease. Being able to reduce them is critical to solving both disease onset and progression. Yet these diseases have complex dynamics where they have multifactorial nature and a variety of things that are going on. They're often sporadic in nature and also heterogeneous. And modern approaches where we take single targets and try to solve for them do not often work. The limited treatments that we have on the market today provide minimal neuroprotective activities while also minimally providing symptomatic relief, which leaves patients out to dust. They often have to take multiple pills, take a cocktail approach, which can lead to drug-on-drug interactions and other adverse events. It's just not very good when you're dealing with something like ALS. So what we are doing at Canurta is developing multi-target botanical drugs that have the ability to provide safer and more effective treatment options for these complex diseases. CNR401 is our first-in-class therapeutic, our lead drug that we are taking to the clinic today. We are starting our drug development process, going out to treat ALS through a 505(b)(2) pathway and under orphan drug designation. We know our drug works because first, we have a rich history of literature, of validated safety and efficacy studies, cannabis literature. We have the ability to leverage programs like the Sativex and Epidiolex program, where we know how different ingredients from the cannabis plant can be neuroprotective and help with symptomatic relief. But by ourselves, we've started to take a different approach with our preclinical programs, one of the results I'll explain today. The second image that you have here is one of our results where we treated zebrafish for how our drug can have activity against motor activity and be neuroprotective when it comes to motor activity. In the green column here, you see we have regular fish. In the yellow column, we have BMAA, a neurotoxin. In the light blue column, we have edaverone, one of the standard of care medicines that patients take for ALS. The next three columns include our different drug formulations, with 401A being our ideal drug that we are taking to the next stage, hoping to get into clinical trials. From this data, we know that our drug at least works as effectively as edaverone. Can it be better? It is for us to see and find out. One of the things interesting that we did find, though, is that when we took the zebrafish, we screened for the human ortholog genes. We got some interesting data back when it came to gene expression. As you can see here, it seems like after we assessed the differentially expressed genes, CNR401 seems to have a much broader therapeutic target and potential than the standard of care medicine that patients are getting today. Right now, we're participating in multiple different incubators and accelerators where we're working to accelerate our growth. We've been working to establish our milestones, whereas over the next 9 months, some of the things that you will see us do is get feedback from our Type B and Type C meetings, which we've already scheduled with the FDA. We're hoping to sign a term sheet with a capital pool company to allow us to list on the Toronto Venture Exchange, allowing us to grow as we hit different milestones in our clinical and development pipeline as we go forward.
10 seconds.
Oh, we're almost done? Oh, sorry. We also have, I'm not going to get through all this today, so let me just wrap up here. Some of the things that we're working with and that we'll get to in questions and answers is our clinical and regulatory strategy, help with our business development, and our storytelling and pitching, which we might need a little bit of help on after today. And for anything that we didn't get through, I also have a QR code for helper here, where you can go on and ask any different questions about how we can get help with mentorship as we continue to grow. That's my presentation.
Thanks, Akeem. I warned everyone I give you a little extra time, but we got to keep it fair. So
No, all good.
All right, we'll tease the things out. Let me start with the question we discussed. So I do want you to, we'll take a little this time in Q&A to expand a bit more on the regulatory. So the standard of care, which I was not aware of, told us it was approved based on improvement in survival, 3-month improvement in survival.
Yes, sir.
So talk to us, aside from a little additional mobility in the zebrafish model, why you think so you have to at least match the prolonged survival of 3 months. You can't be any less than that. And why do you think you'll do that? And what are your thoughts about whether you can improve survival any further? We touched on that a little, but tell the audience here.
Yes, I apologize. So starting from scratch, what our drug does better than any other standard of care or drug that's in the development pipeline right now for ALS is target multiple mechanisms of actions that are going wrong in the motor neurons that give the patients the ability to see success. Not only neuroprotective benefits, but also mechanisms of action that target the multiple symptoms that are going wrong. The standard of care drug edaravone was approved because in a 6-month trial, they saw in a single study in Japan a 33% reduction in survival or improvement in survivability versus placebo control. But since that approval, that study has been repeated, and they found no statistical significance when compared with placebo control at survival when patients use edaravone. They're only getting minimal effect from use of this drug. We, on the other side, have a rich history of traditional use, plus some of our own preclinical data, even on top of what I tried to get through today. That suggests that we are going to be able to give patients the ability to live much better, healthier lives over a longer period of time, be able to maintain their muscle mass, their strength, and be neuroprotective to possibly be able to slow, pause, or even reverse the progression of the disease. So that's, in a summary, some of the rationale behind and why we think we can do better, because right now for ALS, nothing works.
Okay. Harold Stelzer, what's the subject matter of your IP, the intellectual property, and how do you control for active ingredient sourcing?
Great question. So in regards to our IP, I'm assuming he's talking about investigational product, not intellectual property, but I'll answer a little bit of both. The difference between botanical and nature-derived molecules versus traditional drugs is that you have to have good agricultural practices and good manufacturing practices, versus traditional drugs, you only have to have good GMP because you're synthesizing drugs. So we start our process right at the beginning of the supply chain, where we control for the cultivars that we are growing, how we're producing them, the varieties that they are, and how we're manufacturing them, so we can have a standardized medicine, so that every cocktail mixture that we get is the exact same medicine that is able to help patients in our sporadic heterogeneous disease. Just in case you're asking about intellectual property, we also have 2 bolts of patents that we are filing that's protecting our lead asset. Not only our manufacturing process patents, but also composition patents, because we have a strong understanding of all the ingredients that we want in this specific extract that gives us the ability to get, it's not the composition of matter in a traditional sense, but it's adjacent enough and it can work for 20-year patent approval life.
Okay. I got 2 kind of overlapping questions from both Catherine Satanov and Zoe Kwan again. The first is on endpoints. Catherine's more specific. Further clarify your endpoints. Are you aiming for overall survival, progression-free survival, other symptom improvement, quality of life? And Zoe's part of that is, how are you going to measure the motor improvements? And she's got a second part that I'll get to, but let's deal with the endpoints and characterizing these things.
So we have our endpoints well defined, and in our phase 2 trial, we're asking a variety of different questions. The first thing that we're going to seek is non-inferiority on survival and superiority on symptoms of the patients. So this will be an add-on investigational product in our phase 2 trial. Patients will still get standard of care. The first thing that we're going to measure is that we're not making them any worse, with our belief that we're going to be able to improve survival based on what they're already getting.
So, again, yeah, I should have, so I learned that last time. So in case anybody missed it, this is going to be a randomized prospective controlled trial, but both groups are getting the standard of care.
Yes, sir.
And so you'll have the ability, depending on how you power the study, to see if you're reducing survival.
Yes, sir.
And let me jump in what we talked about. So are you thinking of this as non-inferiority or superiority?
Well, the phase 2 trial will start as non-inferiority. We just want to make sure we're not making that
Okay.
making any worse. We have
Okay.
a belief that we'll be able to increase their survival beyond the 3.5 months that they got from the original trial in edaravone, which now seems to be disproved. We think we can do much better.
But
What
overall survival.
overall survival.
Okay.
Hmm?
All right.
What the FDA is looking for is two things. The gold standard in ALS is the ALS functional rating scale revised. The original finding was that edaravone was able to increase scores 33%, 33 reduction in decline on the ALS functional rating scale revised. We think we'll be able to at least hit 25.5% reduction or more based on our drug. But
Okay.
where we're going to have a really big improvement for patients is that we target multiple symptoms and things that are going wrong in ALS. So we are also targeting things like a 25% reduction in pain, a 21% improvement in spasticity scores, a 10 to 20% improvement in quality of life scores, so on and so forth. This gives us the ability to get fast track or conditional approval as long as we have a good safety score as we come out of our phase 2, and then be able to assess for superiority and in our confirmatory trials as we grow forward from here.
All right, so we probably have time for one more question. The second part, as always, was talk about your business model. We didn't really get to that.
Oh, simple business model. We want to build, co-develop, or out-license our different assets. CNR 401 is just our lead asset in our portfolio. It's the one that we have the most proof and evidence for. And again, we're in discussions with the FDA right now to be able to launch in our phase 2. But we also have other ingredients that are anti-inflammatory targeted, ingredients that can cross the blood-brain barriers, ingredients that work symptomatically, and then we'll investigate them for things like rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile arthritis, IBD, any inflammatory or neurodegenerative disease. We have
Yeah, but are you planning on being full spectrum company? You're going to manufacture, get approved, and market and sell yourself?
We're right now we work with co-manufacturers in the States to produce our CNR 401, for example. We're seeking commercialization partners. In Brazil, we have one. In Germany, we're working through a second supply chain. They have supply chains that can allow this product to launch and get into the hands of patients as we go forward from here. In the US, eventually, as we go through our development process, we will hope to find someone who has experience commercializing and launching neurodegenerative disease products in the US. We don't have that today. That's one of the things that we would love to see if we can find for mentors as we continue to grow.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks again, everybody. So just like the others, I'm not sure I said it last time. Make a note if you want to volunteer for this. And I'll tell you again, we'll only put you on one team. So if you like a number of them, list them and then just rank them for us. All right. Thanks, Akeem. Thanks, mentors. So we've gone through 4. So we're going to close with Possibility Neurotechnologies.
Perfect. Thank you all for your time and for sticking with us through the pitches today. I'm Dion Kelly. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Possibility Neurotechnologies, and I'm excited to close out this session by sharing how we're empowering interaction through thought. 65 million people worldwide struggle with severe speech and mobility challenges due to conditions such as cerebral palsy, ALS, spinal cord injury, and stroke. These individuals rely on assistive technology to interact with the world, but existing solutions have significant limitations. Take Stephen Hawking, for example. He started with a hand switch, then a thumb switch, and later an infrared cheek sensor as his ALS progressed. When he lost all voluntary movement except for his eyes, he would have used an eye gaze system. But once he lost eye control, he would have had no remaining access method, leaving his thoughts trapped inside his mind. Assistive technology is not just a tool, it's a lifeline. Yet most solutions are too expensive, too complex, or too limiting, making them inaccessible for many. Access can mean the difference between a child getting an education, an adult joining the workforce, or someone maintaining their independence. But despite its life-changing potential, only 2% of those who need it have access, leaving millions without a way to communicate and control their world. Think to Switch transforms this landscape. Just like Siri responds to voice commands, Think to Switch responds to thought commands, translating brain activity into real-world actions. Users wear an EEG headset that detects brain signals. They then train the Think to Switch algorithms to recognize a specific thought for control. And then once learned, they can activate and control devices from kitchen appliances to Netflix, all through the Think to Switch app. Developed in our clinical research program at the University of Calgary and the Alberta Children's Hospital, Think to Switch has already helped families connect and interact with each other. With over 1,000 hours of real-world use, we've worked with leading institutions like the Glenrose Hospital in Edmonton, iHope Academy in New York, and the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab right here in Chicago. Existing solutions like switches, eye gaze, and voice control rely on precise movement or speech, making them inaccessible for many, including the children in our research program. Cost is another major barrier. Eye gaze is the current gold standard, but it costs thousands of dollars. Therefore, it's typically only accessed through insurance, which can take a year or more to approve. Meanwhile, setup and reliability remain a big challenge, where other solutions require expert support, noise-free environments, or they're disrupted by shifts in position or speech. Think to Switch eliminates these barriers. It requires no physical movement, no speech, and no complex setup, working in any position, any environment, and at a fraction of the cost of existing solutions. We started in research, securing over $4 million in grants to validate both the problem and solution. After seeing the life-changing impact that Think to Switch had, we incorporated at the end of 2022 to expand access. Last year, our focus was market research and product iteration, where we secured $450,000 in grants and graduated from the Creative Destruction Lab program. This work solidified our go-to-market strategy and regulatory strategy based on real-world feedback. Some of the key insights that shaped our approach was that accessing technology via reimbursement is a major hurdle. As one user put it, technology's out there and it needs to be as accessible as buying an effing roll of toilet paper. Users aren't learning about assistive tech from healthcare, they're learning from social media. We found that 75% of potential users find new technology online, highlighting a huge awareness gap and reinforcing our direct-to-consumer strategy. And the biggest hurdle for use is the EEG hardware. Our expanded pilot testing revealed the EEG headset was the major pain point, leading us to prioritize ease of setup and alternative hardware options. Over the next few months, we'll complete our MVP and validate product market fit. By summer, we'll launch version 1 in Canada, refining our approach before scaling, which will position us for a seed round in the fall to fuel our US expansion. Our multidisciplinary team combines neuroscience, biomedical engineering, and clinical neurology to ensure real-world impact. And to scale, we're looking for mentors with expertise in consumer health and wellness tech, specifically IP and strategic partnerships, pricing and reimbursement, and data-driven business models to leverage the real-world neurodata that Think to Switch will access. So if this is you, please join our efforts to create a world where everyone has equal opportunities to connect, communicate, and thrive.
Thanks, Dion. Good job. Right on time. So really interesting approach to a real world problem. So first question from Catherine Satanoff. Who is your competition? You touched on a little of that, but she wants to know, where are you placed versus them in terms of time to market, use cases, pricing, accessibility, et cetera. So, maybe take us through a little more of that.
Yeah, so most assistive technologies on the market are actually medical devices. And so they are relying on the reimbursement pathways for people to access them, which is the main, I guess, the main hurdle, which slows down potential users from actually getting the technology. So by entering the market as a direct-to-consumer technology, we'll be able to access those users more quickly and potentially access the users who are being left behind by some of these existing technologies.
All right, but let me jump in here. And again, we touched on some of this. So I want you to tell us a little more about your initial target population and the socioeconomic characterization of that group, because $10 to $30 a month, you might say, well, everybody gets a cell phone plan, but $350 is a big number to purchase the hardware. The counter of that is if you can make the case that there's a significant patient benefit here, you ought to be able to get reimbursement. That's a theoretical comment. So how do you balance those two things here?
Yeah, so we based our pricing directly on what families told us that they could afford, as well as the sustainability of our business and benchmarks for existing consumer
And
technology.
which is there a particular population? Are you talking kids or which?
Yeah. So our beachhead market are children with severe cerebral palsy and Rett syndrome, where they
Okay.
currently have no options for interaction because they can't use any of the existing assistive technologies on the market.
Yeah. Okay. Harold Stelzer wants to know, good, because I want you to tease this out. We talked about how do you program the desired action? Is there any limit to the number of actions before you get interference between them?
Yeah, so there's definitely a trade-off between, well, the headset. So it really depends on the hardware. So if you have a headset that has a ton of electrodes on it, then you would be able to program more mental commands and use more thoughts for control, but it just wouldn't be practical. And that's exactly what we found in our pilot testing. And so using a headset that has a lot less electrodes, like the one we're targeting only has 5, it really limits that spatial resolution and limits the number of commands that you could train. But what we found is that families or kids are typically not using more than 2 or 3 distinct commands. And there's a lot that you can do with just having 1 or 2 commands. And that's been built into some of these existing assistive technology softwares and devices, is the access with just using 1 or 2 controls.
So Mary Beth Arzak asked a question. Are there certain qualities of the ideal type of candidate that can most easily learn to provide mental commands? Is it harder for older people to learn? Let me add, as part of that, I was going to ask you before she typed that in, tell us how you actually do it. Walk us through how you actually train a patient.
How you actually calibrate it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you do is it doesn't just read your mind. You have to actually train these algorithms to know what your brain signals look like when you are thinking a specific thought, and that thought is what you use for control. And so in the software, on the calibration screen, there's a 5-second calibration where you're thinking that thought. So you would say essentially, okay, think to switch. This is what my brain signals look like when I'm thinking about switching something on. So you'd be thinking switch in your mind, and that data would be read by the algorithms. And so they're learning what those brain signals look like when you're thinking that thought. And then you basically say, okay, when you pick up switch, this switch thought, use that to control whatever is plugged into smart plug number 1. Or
so does the patient have to have, so they can have compromised physical mobility coordination things, do they have to have a normal mental status, and or can they have some neurologic dysfunction also?
Yep. So we have been basically saying that the baseline is as long as you can understand cause and effect, then you can learn to use Think to Switch.
Okay. All right. And what are the regulatory considerations?
So because we're using consumer grade EEG hardware, that is not a medical device, and because the risk is very low, we are following the FDA general wellness policy. So we don't require FDA or Health Canada approval.
So how do you think about the market opportunity? You didn't get to go through that, so.
Yeah, so there's about 65 million people worldwide who require assistive technology for interaction. A significant amount of those people, about 98%, currently have no options. They don't have access. Only 2% of people are actually being served. In the US, that number is about 3.5 million individuals who require assistive technology. And at the price point that we are providing it at, the market size would be about 3.5 billion.
3.5 million gets you a 3.5 billion market?
Yeah, in the US.
Okay.
Sorry, in Canada and the US.
What's the difference between the $10 and $30 a month subscription?
So we've implemented the tiered subscription so that we can continue to implement these additional features as we grow and as we scale. So the most basic one would allow you to control devices with 1 or 2 commands, and then we would add additional features for the types of devices that you can control, as well as the type of support that you receive. So like basic chat support versus having access via phone line or video support, because that's a huge factor in maintaining use. So support is a big part of the service that we're offering with our tiered subscription.
Okay, so last question. You nicely told us about the academic work, the strong academic work before the companies were formed. So what is the IP strategy? How do you take advantage of what was already out there in the literature versus what you want for IP for the company?
Yeah, so since we have now shifted to a software only solution on our end, working with existing consumer grade technologies, our strategy involves mainly trademarking and trade secrets, but there's a lot of potential for patents as we get into like the user experience and how we actually teach users to interact with the technology, as well as down the line when we will likely need to be producing our own proprietary hardware for the EEG.
Okay. Great. All right. Thanks, Dion. Thanks, mentors again. And so we've gotten through all 5 companies. So last time I'll tell you, I'm going to turn it over to Sam to tell you the next steps. She'll give all the nuts and bolts, but at some point we will ask you to indicate your interest in joining a team, and I hope that most of you will have an interest in more than one team, and we really will do the great job of pairing you up with the best fit between your skill sets and your interests. So thanks, everyone. Sam, tell us what the next steps are. Thanks.
Sounds great. Thanks, Dr. Gould. For all the mentors on the line, tomorrow you will be receiving an email from me that has a link to the recording in case you missed anything, links to their pitch decks, and then also the survey where you will specify which companies you are interested in potentially mentoring. As Dr. Gould has mentioned a few times, if there's more than one company, feel free to rank them. There will be ways for you to say kind of first, second, third, fourth, and fifth if you're interested in working with all five. We will match them based on your expertise and the needs of the companies. Thanks, Dr. Gould, and thank you to all of the participants. I know you worked so hard over the last few weeks on refining your pitches, and it really came through in today's presentation. So thank you for the amazing work so far, but we are just getting started.